Hana Kim stared at her empty bank account and felt her stomach drop. The mining station where she had worked for 3 years had shut down without warning, leaving her stranded on a backwater space dock with barely enough credits for food. She scrolled through job listings on her worn tablet, hoping to find something that would pay enough to get her off this floating rust bucket. Most postings wanted experienced pilots or engineers with fancy degrees. Hana only had her hands-on knowledge of quantum resonance equipment from the mines. She was about to give up when a simple listing caught her eye. Domestic service position on Zelthara, one of the most beautiful garden worlds in the sector. The pay was surprisingly generous, and they only asked for someone reliable and hard-working. Hana laughed bitterly. After crawling through mine shafts and fixing broken machinery in zero gravity, how hard could cleaning house be? She applied immediately, attaching her basic work history and a short note about her mining background. To her surprise, she got a response within hours asking her to report to the Zelthara estate as soon as possible. The journey to Zelthara took 2 days on a cramped transport ship. Hana pressed her face against the tiny porthole as they approached the planet. Rolling green hills stretched as far as she could see, dotted with crystal spires that caught the light like diamonds. She had never seen anything so beautiful. The air smelled like flowers when she stepped off the ship, a welcome change from the recycled atmosphere she was used to. A sleek transport waited for her at the spaceport. The driver, a tall alien with pale blue skin, said nothing during the ride to the estate. Hana watched the scenery roll by, feeling more nervous with each passing mile. The houses they passed grew larger and more elaborate until they reached a massive complex that looked more like a palace than a home. The entrance hall made Hana feel tiny. Columns of polished stone stretched up to a ceiling painted with swirling galaxies. Water flowed down the walls in impossible patterns that defied gravity. She stood there gawking until footsteps echoed across the marble floor. The woman who approached her was unlike anyone Hana had ever seen. She moved with fluid grace, her silver skin seeming to glow with its own inner light. Her eyes were the deep blue of ocean depths, and when she spoke, her voice had a musical quality that made Hana want to listen forever. "You must be Hana Kim," the woman said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "I am Empress Mirath. Welcome to my home." Hana nearly choked. Empress? She had applied to clean house for royalty? Her mouth went dry as she shook the offered hand, surprised by how warm it felt despite the alien's silver appearance. "Your Majesty, I think there might be some mistake," Hana stammered. "I just applied for a maid position." Empress Mirath smiled, and Hana felt her knees go weak. "Oh, there is no mistake, but perhaps I was not entirely honest in my job posting. You see, I do need domestic assistance, but not in the way you might expect. Walk with me." They moved through corridors lined with artwork from a dozen different worlds. The Empress explained that she had reviewed Hana's background carefully. Her experience with quantum resonance equipment in the mines was exactly what she needed, but not for housework. "I require someone to undertake a delicate mission," Mirath said, stopping before a massive window that looked out over the estate's gardens. "Someone with your specific technical knowledge and, more importantly, someone the enemy would never suspect." Hana's head spun. Mission? Enemy? This was definitely not what she had signed up for. But looking at the Empress's hopeful expression and thinking about her empty bank account, she found herself nodding before she could stop herself. The training began at dawn the next day. Hana expected to sit in a classroom or watch training videos, but Empress Mirath had other plans. She led Hana to a private chamber deep within the palace, its walls covered in flowing silk that seemed to move on its own. "Your human mannerisms will give you away instantly," Mirath explained, circling around Hana like a predator studying its prey. "You walk too heavily, speak too directly, and your emotions are written across your face like an open book." Hana felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I can't help how I am." "Of course you can," the Empress said softly, placing her hands on Hana's shoulders. The moment their skin touched, Hana felt a strange tingling sensation, as if electricity was flowing between them. "My people communicate as much through touch and energy as we do through words. If you are to pass as one of us, you must learn our ways." The lessons were unlike anything Hana had ever experienced. Mirath taught her to move with flowing grace, to control her breathing until it was barely noticeable, and to school her expressions into the serene mask that her people wore in public. The hardest part was learning to be comfortable with constant physical contact. "My species bonds through touch," Mirath explained during one particularly intense session. She pressed her palm against Hana's forehead, and suddenly Hana could feel the Empress's emotions flowing into her mind. Calm confidence mixed with deep worry, and something else that Hana couldn't quite identify. "This connection will be essential for the mission. I must be able to communicate with you silently." Hana jerked back, breaking the contact. Her head felt fuzzy, like she had been drinking. "That was inside my head. How is that possible?" "Telepathic. Bonding is natural for us," Mirath said, though Hana noticed she looked slightly drained. "The deeper the physical connection, the stronger the mental link becomes. Do not worry. I cannot read your thoughts without permission, but I can share emotions, warnings, and simple communications." As the days passed, Hana learned more about their target. Lord Vextar ruled a brutal empire built on conquest and slavery. His latest obsession was a collection of artifacts he had stolen from abandoned human colonies. Most people thought they were just pretty trinkets from Earth's past, but Mirath knew better. "These are not mere decorations," the Empress explained, showing Hana holographic images of ornate devices that looked like jewelry or art pieces. "Your ancestors were far more advanced than anyone realizes. These artifacts can influence minds across vast distances. In the wrong hands, they could turn entire populations into willing slaves." Hana stared at the images in horror. The artifacts looked familiar somehow, like something from half-remembered childhood stories. "Why would humans create something so dangerous?" "Perhaps they were meant for healing or communication," Mirath suggested, "but Vextar has learned to twist their purpose. He has already tested them on smaller worlds. Entire planets now serve him without question, their people believing they chose their fate willingly." The training intensified after that revelation. Mirath taught Hana to fight with elegant alien weapons, to navigate complex social protocols, and to resist mental intrusion. Each lesson required more physical contact, deeper bonding, until Hana found herself thinking about the Empress even when they were apart. "You are learning quickly," Mirath said, after Hana successfully deflected a telepathic probe during a practice session. Perhaps too quickly for a human. Hana felt a chill run down her spine. There was something in the Empress's voice, a note of satisfaction that didn't quite match her concerned expression. But before she could ask what that meant, Mirath was already moving on to the next lesson, her warm touch driving away Hana's doubts. The diplomatic shuttle approached Vextar's fortress like a metal insect flying toward a spider's web. Hana pressed her hand against the cool window, watching the massive structure grow larger. The fortress looked like someone had carved it from a single piece of black stone, with twisted spires reaching toward the dark sky like grasping fingers. "Remember what we practiced," Mirath whispered beside her, though they both knew other passengers might be listening. "You are Dr. Hana Kim, Earth's leading expert on ancient human culture. Stay calm, stick to your cover story, and trust your instincts." Hana nodded, adjusting the flowing robes that marked her as a scholarly visitor. Hidden beneath the fabric were scanning devices so small they looked like decorative buttons. Her heart hammered against her ribs as the shuttle docked, with a soft thud. The interior of Vextar's fortress was a study in intimidation. Everything was oversized and dark, from the towering ceilings to the massive stone pillars carved with scenes of conquest. Alien dignitaries from across the sector mingled in the Great Hall, their conversations creating a buzz of different languages and clicking sounds. Hana had expected Lord Vextar to be some hulking monster, but the being who greeted the diplomatic party was surprisingly ordinary. He stood barely taller than Hana, with grey skin and small calculating eyes that missed nothing. When he spoke, his voice was soft and pleasant, which somehow made him more frightening than any roar would have. "Welcome, honored guests," Vextar said, his gaze lingering on Hana with obvious interest. "I understand we have a genuine human scholar among us today. How fascinating. I have developed quite an appreciation for your species' lost civilizations." "The honor is mine, Lord Vextar," Hana replied, bowing slightly as Mirath had taught her. "I hope to learn as much from you as you might from me." Vextar's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Indeed. Perhaps later you might examine some pieces in my private collection. I would value your expert opinion on their authenticity." As the evening progressed, Hana mingled with the other guests, playing her role perfectly. She discussed ancient Earth customs with curious aliens and shared carefully rehearsed stories about human history. All the while, she memorized the fortress layout and noted the positions of guards and security sensors. Her chance came when Vextar personally invited her to view his private museum. They walked through corridors lined with stolen treasures from 100 different worlds. Hana's anger grew with each step, but she kept her expression neutral and scholarly. The private collection took her breath away, but not from wonder. The faux artifacts were definitely human in origin, but they were unlike anything from the historical records she knew. Crystalline devices that hummed with their own energy sat alongside metal sculptures that seemed to shift and change when she wasn't looking directly at them. "Remarkable craftsmanship," she managed to say, while her hidden scanners worked frantically to record everything. "Oh, these are much more than mere art," Vextar said proudly. "Watch this." He activated one of the devices, and Hana felt a strange pressure in her mind, like invisible fingers trying to pry open her thoughts. For a terrifying moment, she wanted nothing more than to serve this wonderful, brilliant leader, who clearly knew what was best for everyone. Then her training kicked in, and she threw up the mental barriers Mirath had taught her. The pressure faded, but her blood ran cold. These weren't just artifacts, they were weapons designed to rewrite human consciousness itself. "Fascinating," she said, proud that her voice remained steady. "The neural resonance patterns suggest these were created for some form of collective mental networking." Vextar's eyes gleamed with hunger. "Precisely. Your ancestors created the perfect tools for unifying disparate populations under wise leadership. They simply lacked the vision to use them properly." Hana smiled and nodded, playing the impressed academic while her mind raced. She had found what they came for, but now she understood the true scope of the threat. These devices could turn humanity into willing slaves across the entire galaxy. The data transfer felt like it took forever, though her scanner showed only 3 minutes had passed. Hana stood casually beside Vextar's main security terminal, pretending to admire a nearby artifact, while her hidden device copied terabytes of fortress blueprints, guard rotations, and weapon placements. Her heart pounded so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. "The quantum resonance patterns in this piece are truly extraordinary," she said to Vextar, pointing at a crystalline sculpture while her scanner finished its work. "I've never seen anything like it in the archaeological record." Vextar beamed with pride. That particular item was recovered from a human colony ship that went missing 3 centuries ago. The colonists had developed remarkable technologies before they disappeared. A chill ran down Hana's spine, but she kept her expression neutral. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. A tall, elegant alien woman entered the chamber, her movements fluid and predatory. She wore the robes of a diplomatic attaché, but something about her made Hana's instincts scream danger. "Lord Vextar," the newcomer said in a voice like poisoned honey, "I believe you should know that your human guest is not who she claims to be." Hana's blood turned to ice. The woman's eyes fixed on her with unmistakable recognition, and she realized her cover was blown completely. Her hand instinctively moved toward the emergency beacon hidden in her sleeve. "How interesting," Vextar said, his pleasant demeanor not changing even as guards began moving into position around the room. "Do tell us more, Agent Kailara." "Her name is indeed Hana Kim, but she's no scholar," the spy continued. "She's a former mining technician working for Empress Mirath. I've been tracking her activities for weeks." Vextar's eyes lit up with genuine delight. "Mirath sent a spy? How wonderfully bold of her, and using a human, no less. I'm almost impressed." Hana backed toward the wall, her mind racing. The guards were blocking the main exit, but she remembered a service corridor from the fortress plans she'd just stolen. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, stalling for time. "I'm just here to study your collection." "Oh, please." Kylara laughed coldly. I've been watching you scan our defenses all evening. Did you really think those primitive human devices could avoid detection forever? That's when Hana noticed something that made her stomach drop. On the spy's wrist was a small device identical to the ones Mireth had given her. The same technology, the same design. Either this agent had stolen Mireth's equipment or... You're working for the Empress too, Hana breathed, the pieces clicking into place. Kylara smiled wider. Was working for her. Lord Vextar made me a much better offer, as he did for Agent Chen on Proxima Station and Agent Yuki in the Centauri system, and at least a dozen others. Did you really think you were her only human operative? The betrayal hit Hana like a physical blow. Mireth had lied to her from the beginning. There were other humans, other people just like her being used as expendable tools in some larger game. She thought about all those intimate training sessions, the telepathic bonding, the way the Empress had made her feel special and chosen. The Empress has been quite busy recruiting your species, Vextar added conversationally. Humans are so wonderfully adaptable, and your minds interface with the ancient artifacts in such interesting ways, much more effectively than most alien species, actually. Alarms began blaring throughout the fortress. Hana's emergency beacon had finally activated, but she knew rescue was probably hours away. She had to get out now, with the data she'd stolen. But first, she needed to understand what she'd really stumbled into. "What are you planning with those artifacts?" she demanded. Vextar's smile turned predatory. "Immortality, my dear. The consciousness transfer capabilities will allow my most loyal followers to upload their minds into biomechanical bodies that never age, never tire, never die. We'll create an empire that lasts forever, with willing human servants whose minds have been properly adjusted." Hana's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about enslaving planets. They wanted to make humans into permanent, immortal slaves. And somehow, Mireth was part of it. Hana barely made it back to Zelthara alive. The escape from Vextar's fortress had been a nightmare of running through dark corridors, dodging energy blasts and jumping between moving platforms over bottomless chasms. Her rescue ship had arrived just as the fortress guards cornered her on a landing pad, and even then, she'd had to leap across empty space to reach safety. Now she stood in Mireth's private chambers, still wearing her torn diplomatic robes, dirt and blood streaking her face. The Empress sat gracefully in her floating chair, looking as beautiful and serene as ever. But Hana saw her differently now. The silver skin that had once seemed ethereal now looked cold and metallic. Those deep, blue eyes that had mesmerized her were calculating and distant. "Welcome back, my dear," Mireth said warmly, as if Hana had just returned from a pleasant vacation. "I trust your mission was successful?" "Cut the act," Hana snapped, her exhaustion making her bold. "I know about the other humans. Agent Kylara told me everything before she tried to kill me. How many of us are you using?" For just a moment, surprise flickered across the Empress's perfect features. Then she smiled, and it was like watching a mask slip into place. "Ah, so Kylara revealed herself. I wondered when Vextar would turn one of my agents. He has such a talent for finding people's weaknesses." "You're working together, aren't you?" Hana accused. "This whole conflict is fake. You and Vextar are partners in whatever sick game you're playing." Mireth rose from her chair and moved toward Hana, with that fluid grace that had once seemed so enchanting. "Not partners exactly, more like competitors with similar goals. We both understand the potential of the artifacts, but we have very different visions for how to use them." "Different how?" Hana demanded, backing away as the Empress approached. "Vextar wants to create immortal slaves," Mireth explained. Her voice taking on the patient tone of a teacher, instructing a slow student. "He sees humans as tools to be used and discarded. I have a much grander vision." She gestured, and the chamber walls became transparent, revealing a vast laboratory hidden behind them. Dozens of humans floated in glowing tanks, their bodies connected to machines by countless tubes and wires. Their faces were peaceful, almost blissful, but their eyes were completely vacant. Hana's stomach lurched. "What did you do to them?" "I'm upgrading them," Mireth said proudly. "These volunteers are the first phase of a new type of being, Human adaptability and creativity combined with superior alien intellect and telepathic abilities. The best of both species merged into something greater. You're stealing their minds, Hana whispered in horror. I'm preserving them, the Empress corrected. Their consciousness becomes part of a collective that will rule the galaxy with perfect wisdom and understanding. No more wars, no more suffering, no more chaos, just peace under enlightened guidance. Hana realized with growing terror that Mirath truly believed what she was saying. In the Empress's mind, she was saving humanity by absorbing it. And what happens to me? Mirath's smile became genuinely warm for the first time since Hana's return. You, my dear, are special. I've been studying human psychology through my various agents, but you possess something unique. Your will is remarkably strong, your adaptability extraordinary, and your moral compass unshakable even under extreme pressure. She reached out to touch Hana's face, and Hana felt that familiar electric tingle, but now it felt invasive, predatory. I don't want to absorb you into the collective. I want to merge with you specifically. Your strength combined with my knowledge and power would create the perfect ruler for this new age. The pieces finally clicked into place. The training, the bonding, the way Mirath had made her feel special and chosen. It had all been preparation for this moment. You want to steal my body. I want to share it, Mirath said gently. Think of what we could accomplish together. You would still be you, but enhanced, elevated, made capable of reshaping the galaxy according to human values of justice and compassion. Hana jerked away from the Empress's touch. Human values? You're talking about enslaving my entire species. Talking about saving them from themselves, Mirath replied, her patience beginning to fray. Humans are beautiful, but you're also chaotic and self-destructive. Left alone, you'll destroy yourselves within a few generations. This way, your best qualities live on forever. Looking at the floating bodies in the tanks, Hana felt a rage building that was purely, completely human. These beings thought they could improve on humanity by erasing everything that made humans human in the first place. The revelation hit Hana like a punch to the gut. As she stared at the floating bodies in Mirath's tanks, her stolen scanner began beeping urgently. The data she'd downloaded from Vexitar's fortress was automatically decrypting, and what it revealed made her blood run cold. What is that sound? Mirath asked, tilting her head with curious interest. Hana pulled out the small device, her hands shaking as she read the scrolling text. Star charts, fleet movements, reconnaissance reports. And there, buried in the military data, was something that made her knees weak. He found it, she whispered. Vextar found Earth. The Empress moved closer, her expression shifting from curiosity to sharp attention. Show me. Against her better judgment, Hana held up the scanner. The holographic display showed a detailed map of the Sol system, complete with population centers, defensive capabilities, and resource assessments. Worst of all, there was a countdown timer showing how long it would take Vexistar's fleet to reach humanity's homeworld. 18 months, Hana read aloud, her voice barely audible. He's giving himself 18 months to prepare. Then he's going to Earth with a harvesting fleet. Mirath studied the data with the calm focus of a scientist, examining an interesting specimen. Impressive. His intelligence network is better than I thought. A population of 12 billion humans would provide more than enough consciousness. Transfers for his immortality project. 12 billion people, Hana repeated, feeling sick. He's planning to turn everyone on Earth into brain-dead slaves. Not everyone, Mirath corrected absently. The children would be too young for proper consciousness extraction. He'd probably just eliminate them as unnecessary. The casual way she said it made Hana want to scream. These alien beings were discussing the genocide of her entire species, like it was a business transaction. She thought about her little sister back on Earth, probably just finishing university. Her elderly parents in their small apartment in Seoul. Millions of people going about their daily lives, completely unaware that two different alien empires wanted to steal their minds. You have to stop him, Hana said desperately. I? Mirath raised an elegant eyebrow. My dear, this actually works quite well for my plans. If Vexitar harvests Earth's population, I can simply take the artifacts from him afterward. 12 billion human consciousness patterns would provide an excellent foundation for my collective. Hana felt like she was drowning. Both of these monsters wanted to destroy humanity, just in different ways. Vextar would turn humans into mindless servants for his immortal followers. Mirath would absorb them into some twisted group mind, where individual thoughts and dreams cease to exist. There has to be another way, she said, though her voice lacked conviction. There is, Mirath replied thoughtfully. You could help me acquire the artifacts before Vextar reaches Earth. With that technology in my possession, I could protect your world from his fleet while simultaneously beginning the integration process, much more humane than mass harvesting. Integration, Hana repeated flatly. You mean absorption into your collective? I mean evolution, the Empress said, her eyes beginning to glow with that hypnotic light. Humans joining something greater than themselves, your creativity and adaptability combined with superior technology and wisdom. Surely that's better than extinction. Hana wanted to refuse to tell this alien tyrant exactly what she could do with her offer, but the timer on the scanner kept counting down. 18 months. Even if she somehow got word to Earth, how could humanity defend itself against technology this advanced? Earth's space fleet was tiny compared to what she'd seen in Vextar's fortress. If I help you, she said slowly, I want guarantees, real ones, not just your word. Mirath's smile was predatory. You're hardly in a position to make demands. Yes, I am, Hana shot back, surprised by her own boldness. You need me. You said so yourself. My will, my adaptability, whatever it is you want from humans. You can't take it by force, or you would have done it already with the others. You need me to choose this. The Empress was silent for a long moment, studying Hana with those ancient blue eyes. What kind of guarantees? Equal partnership, Hana said, the words coming out before she could second-guess herself. Not servant, not tool, not test subject. If we do this, we do it together as equals, and we find a way to preserve human individuality, not erase it. Impossible, Mirath said immediately. The collective consciousness requires, then find another way, Hana interrupted. Or watch Vextar turn my people into zombies while you get nothing. The silence stretched between them like a physical thing. Finally, Mirath spoke, her voice thoughtful. You're proposing to save humanity by fundamentally changing what humanity is. I'm proposing to save humanity by making sure it survives in some form, Hana corrected. Even if that form isn't what we expected. The next few weeks transformed Hana's life completely, gone were the luxurious chambers and formal training sessions. Instead, she found herself in Mirath's war room, a stark military facility buried deep beneath the palace. Holographic displays showed star maps, fleet positions, and constantly updating intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Your mental barriers are improving, Mirath noted during one of their planning sessions. She had just tried to share tactical data through their telepathic link, but Hana had successfully filtered out the Empress's underlying emotions and kept her own thoughts private. Perhaps too much for comfort. Hana looked up from the assault plans she was studying. That was the deal. Equal partners means I don't let you rummage around in my head whenever you feel like it. The Empress smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. Fair enough. But you'll need to lower those barriers during the actual mission. Communication delays could get us both killed. It was strange, this new dynamic between them. The seductive manipulation was gone, replaced by a professional wariness that Hana found much easier to handle. Mirath still tried to influence her, sometimes old habits dying hard, but Hana had learned to recognize the subtle mental pressure and push back. Their biggest challenge was assembling a strike force. Most of Mirath's regular troops were busy defending her territory from Vextar's expanding empire. The humans in the consciousness tanks were obviously useless for combat. That left them scrambling to find volunteers willing to attempt what most military experts considered a suicide mission. These are the candidates, Mirath said, activating a holographic display that showed dozens of faces, 17 humans from various backgrounds, all with combat experience or technical skills we need, plus 32 of my people who volunteered. For the mission, Hana studied the human faces, feeling a mix of hope and guilt. Where did you find them? Mining stations, cargo ships, frontier colonies, the Empress replied. Most are in similar situations to yours. Desperate, skilled, and with nothing left to lose. You mean you manipulated them too? I prefer to think of it as offering them purpose, Mireth said smoothly. Though I was more honest about the dangers this time. They know this is likely. A one-way trip. The volunteers arrived over the following days, and Hana was surprised by how diverse the group was. There was Jin Park, a former military engineer whose transport ship had been destroyed by pirates. Yuki Tanaka, a xenobiologist who'd lost her research station to Vextar's forces. Dong Min, a security chief whose family had been taken by slavers. Each human had their own reason for joining the mission, but they all shared something that Hana recognized in herself. They were tired of being helpless, tired of watching bad things happen to innocent people, while alien powers played games with their lives. The plan is straightforward, Hana explained to the assembled team during their first briefing. We hit Vextar's fortress during the next diplomatic gathering. While his attention is focused on his guests, we infiltrate the artifact storage facility and either steal or destroy the consciousness transfer devices. Jin raised his hand. What about the guards? That place will be crawling with security. That's where our alien allies come in, Mireth interjected. My people will create diversions at key points throughout the fortress, but make no mistake, this will be a bloody affair. The training was intense and brutal. Mirath's instructors pushed the humans to their limits, teaching them to use alien weapons and navigate alien architecture. The telepathic coordination exercises were the hardest part. Each human had to learn to open their mind just enough to receive emergency communications while keeping their deeper thoughts protected. The irony is not lost on me, Mireth commented one evening as they watched the mixed teams practice together. I'm teaching humans to resist the very mental abilities I plan to use on them. Having second thoughts? Hana asked. Constantly, the Empress admitted. This alliance goes against every instinct my species has developed over millennia. We are conquerors, not partners. Hana noticed something in Mireth's voice that she'd never heard before. Uncertainty, maybe even doubt. And yet here we are. Indeed, your people continue to surprise me. Most species would have accepted my offer of absorption rather than face certain death fighting Vextar. Most species probably aren't as stubborn as humans, Hana replied. As the final preparations began, Hana found herself thinking about what they were really trying to accomplish. Even if they succeeded in stopping Vextar, what kind of future awaited humanity? Mirath still wanted to fundamentally change her species, just in a supposedly more humane way. But looking at the determined faces of her fellow humans, Hana realized something important. They weren't fighting for the future Mireth envisioned. They were fighting for the right to choose their own destiny, whatever that might be. The assault began at midnight, when Vextar's fortress was buzzing with another diplomatic reception. Hana crouched in the ventilation shaft above the artifact chamber, listening to her team's whispered reports through her earpiece. Jin and his demolition squad were in position near the power generators. Yuki had infiltrated the computer core. Dong Min's security team was ready to seal the escape routes. All teams report ready, Hana whispered into her communicator. Empress, what's your status? Mireth's voice crackled back through the telepathic link they'd established. My forces are engaging the main garrison. Vextar's attention is focused on the grand ballroom. You have perhaps 20 minutes before he realizes this is more than a simple raid. Hana took a deep breath and dropped silently into the artifact chamber. The stolen human devices glowed with their eerie inner light, arranged in neat rows like some twisted museum display. Each one represented the stolen heritage of her people, technology that should have been used to better humanity instead of enslaving it. Beginning extraction, she reported, pulling out the specially designed containers that would safely transport the consciousness transfer devices. Her hands moved quickly but carefully. These artifacts were incredibly delicate and damaging. Them wrong could release stored mental patterns in unpredictable ways. The first sign of trouble came when the fortress shook violently. Emergency lights began flashing as explosions echoed through the corridors. Jin's voice crackled over the radio, tight with stress. They found us! Security forces are converging on all positions! Hold them off as long as you can, Hannah ordered, working faster. She'd secured half the artifacts when the chamber door exploded inward. Vextar himself stood in the smoking doorway, flanked by a dozen heavily armed guards. "The infamous Hana Kim," he said pleasantly, as if they were meeting at a social gathering. "I must admit I'm impressed. Few beings have ever penetrated this deep into my fortress." Hana's hand moved toward her weapon, but the guards already had her covered. "Lord Vextar, I'd say it's a pleasure, but we both know that's not true." "Indeed. Though I am curious about one thing." He stepped closer, his small eyes glittering with malice. "Did you really think Mireth would keep her promises to you? She's no different from me, you know. She simply prefers a gentler approach to domination." Before Hana could answer, the chamber wall exploded. Mireth strode through the breach, her silver skin streaked with blood and her elegant robes torn by battle. Energy crackled around her hands as she faced off against Vextar. "You always did have terrible timing," she told her rival. The battle that followed was unlike anything Hana had ever witnessed. The two alien rulers fought with powers that seemed to bend reality itself. Energy beams carved through solid stone, gravity shifted and twisted, and the air itself seemed to catch fire. Hana dove for cover behind a display case, still clutching the artifacts she'd managed to secure. Vextar's guards tried to intervene, but they were no match for Mireth's fury. She cut through them like they were made of paper, her telepathic abilities turning their own weapons against them. But the effort was costing her. Each display of power left her looking more drained, more vulnerable. "You cannot stop what I've already set in motion," Vextar snarled, his own powers beginning to overwhelm Mireth's defenses. "My fleet is already halfway to your precious Earth. In 6 months, every human will serve me willingly. Not if I destroy." "These artifacts first," Mireth gasped, raising her hands toward the remaining devices. "Do that and you'll never create your precious collective," Vextar taunted. "How you'll have nothing left to offer the humans in exchange for their cooperation." That's when Hana saw her chance. While the two aliens were focused on each other, she managed to reach the main control console for the artifact storage system. But as her fingers moved over the controls, she faced a terrible choice. She could destroy everything as originally planned. The consciousness transfer technology would be lost forever, but so would any chance of using it to defend Earth against Vextar's fleet. Or she could try something desperate and probably impossible. Mireth cried out in pain as Vextar's attack found its mark. The Empress collapsed, her silver skin growing pale as her life force flickered like a dying flame. She looked at Hana with those deep blue eyes, and for the first time, there was no manipulation or hidden agenda in her gaze, just desperate hope. "Choose wisely, human," Vextar called out, advancing on the wounded Empress. "Save your enemy or save your species. You cannot do both." Hana's fingers hovered over the control panel as Vextar advanced on the dying Empress. Her mind raced through everything she'd learned about the consciousness transfer devices. They weren't just weapons or tools for permanent mind control. At their core, they were communication systems designed to connect minds across vast distances. "There's a third option," she whispered, making her choice. Instead of destroying the artifacts or using them as Vextar intended, Hana activated the temporary neural link protocol that Mireth had shown her weeks ago. But instead of allowing the Empress to absorb her consciousness, she reversed the flow. Her human determination, her stubborn refusal to give up, her species' incredible adaptability flowed into Mireth's fading mind. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Empress's silver skin began to glow with renewed energy, but it was different now. Where before her power had been cold and calculated, now it burned with human passion and defiance. She rose to her feet, and when she looked at Vextar, there was something new in her ancient eyes. "Impossible," Vextar snarled. "You cannot merge with a human without losing yourself." "I'm not merging," Mireth replied, her voice carrying a strange harmony as if two people were speaking in perfect unison. "I'm borrowing. And what I've borrowed is the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." "Which is?" Vextar demanded, raising his hands to unleash another devastating attack. "Hope," Hana and Mireth said together. The battle that followed was brief but decisive. Enhanced by human resilience and unpredictability, Mirath fought with a creativity that caught Vextar completely off guard. Where he expected calculated alien tactics, he faced the chaotic ingenuity that had allowed humans to survive and thrive across the galaxy despite being physically weaker than most species. When it was over, Vextar lay defeated among the wreckage of his precious artifacts. His consciousness transfer technology was destroyed, but not by explosion or violence. Instead, Hana had reprogrammed the devices to erase only the enslaving protocols while preserving their communication capabilities. "You've doomed us both," Vextar gasped with his dying breath. "Without the artifacts, neither of us can control the humans. They'll spread across the galaxy like a plague, corrupting everything they touch with their chaos." Mirath, her connection. Hana, fading but not entirely gone, smiled. "That's rather the point." In the days that followed, as news of Vextar's defeat spread across the galaxy, Hana found herself in an unexpected position. She was no longer just a desperate refugee or a reluctant spy. She had become the first human ambassador to an alien empire, tasked with negotiating humanity's place in a larger galactic community. The treaty talks were unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of one species conquering or absorbing another, they were creating something entirely new. Humans would maintain their independence and individual identities while sharing technology and knowledge with Mirath's people. In return, they would help defend against other threats like Vextar's surviving followers. "Your people will never accept unity," one of Mirath's advisors warned during the negotiations. "Humans are too chaotic, too unpredictable." "That's exactly why this will work," Hana replied confidently. "You've been trying to create perfect order, but perfect order is death. Life requires chaos, change, growth. Humans bring that to the table." Mirath, still carrying traces of human perspective from their temporary link, nodded in agreement. "I spent centuries trying to eliminate chaos from my empire. But Hana has shown me that chaos isn't the enemy of order, it's the source of innovation and growth." The final treaty established something unprecedented in galactic history. Humans would settle on worlds throughout Mirath's territory, bringing their creativity and adaptability to stagnant alien societies. In return, they would gain access to technologies that could defend Earth and other human colonies from future threats. "This is just the beginning," Hana told the assembled delegates, as they signed the historic agreement. "We're not creating a human empire or an alien empire. We're creating something new, something that honors the best of both our species." As she watched human and alien officials work together to plan their shared future, Hana couldn't help but smile. She'd started this journey as a desperate woman looking for any job that would pay her bills. She was ending it as the architect of a new kind of civilization. The consciousness transfer artifacts, reprogrammed and safely secured, would serve their original purpose at last. Not as tools of domination, but as bridges between minds and species. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or conquered, but as partners in the greatest adventure of all. And for the first time since leaving that mining station, Hana Kim felt truly hopeful about the future.